It is that time of the year again, and here we are with the next release of Ubuntu. Now don't panic everyone, this is only the beta release. There is going to be 2 beta releases with this particular release cycle of Ubuntu. So this is the beta of 11.04 Natty Narwhal. So of course the big news with Natty Narwhal is that it is based on Unity interface. Now the Unity interface was developed by the Ubuntu team for the netbook release of Ubuntu 10.10. Since their Ubuntu Developers Conference, of course, they decided to switch to Unity as the default for the operating system. This caused quite a few waves in the open source world. However, those who like GNOME can rest assured because they do bundle GNOME in with the existing CD, and you can log in as Ubuntu Classic, and it is the exact same user experience, albeit with a global menu up the top instead of the normal GNOME panels. But we're going to be talking about Unity, the pre-installed applications, and the specific Ubuntu tools that have changed drastically since the last release of Ubuntu. Okay, so first, look and feel. Ambience theme has not changed at all, neither has the Radiance theme. The backgrounds, however, have changed, and of course they are very nice looking backgrounds as per usual. The Ubuntu team do quite a nice job of outsourcing their artwork, and they do a great job of selecting the best ones from the thousands that have been submitted. So I'm going to change the wallpaper here because, of course, controversially, they really didn't do much to the default wallpaper. They just layered a few more blurs on top of it. So yeah, not that exciting. But that's not what they're wanting to provide. They're wanting to provide a bit of continuity, they said, up until the 12.04 release. And once the 12.04 release rolls around, there's going to be a different look and a different feel to this operating system once it gets to their long-term service support. So we're going to have a look at some backgrounds here. We've got, of course, the introduction of vector art for these wallpapers. This is new to Ubuntu. Well, kind of. I mean, Hardy Heron had the lovely Heron wallpaper that was the default one, but they decided to reintroduce some vector art of the creatures that provide the code names. So we've got a few narwhal ones here. We've got another one here, which again, very nice, very, very purpley. We got a lot of purple in this release. And yeah, and we've also got the photography ones, which are also very nice. So, oh wow, picking one is a bit of a decision. Okay, I'm going to go for, I think I'll go for the narwhal one. Okay, let's move on to Unity. Now, of course, down the side here we have the Unity panel. Now, this Unity interface has undergone a lot of work since the Ubuntu 10.10 release. They have not been resting on their laurels at all. We have Compiz as the default window manager inside Unity, which is like the shell. So you can see here that we've got the Compiz present desktop effect there, and we've also got smooth transitions between desktops. And quite honestly, there's no problem there with Compiz. They also provide, of course, the Unity 2D interface for those graphics cards that can't quite handle 3D acceleration, which is good to see that they've catered for that, as it was a concern for quite a number of people when they first announced this. Secondly, we have the Unity launcher, which is this one here. Now, basically, as my take on this is that the Ubuntu team have observed what is good with the OS X dock and with the Windows 7 superbar, and they've created something similar, but with its own distinct Ubuntu taste. So you can see here that you've got your most recent applications all along the side here, and you can pin applications to it just like you would with any other dock/superbar thing. And you can see down here we've even got our mounted drives and our trash can, and a few tools like the workspace switcher that we saw before, and also files and folders and applications. That brings me to the next thing, and that is Unity Dash. And Dash is pretty much the most fundamental way you're going to be navigating your system. In my opinion, it's actually a decent replacement for things such as GNOME Do or for Synapse and app launchers of that caliber. Basically, you can activate it one of two ways, by of course the big Ubuntu button, or you can hit the meta key on your keyboard, or the Windows key, which ironically enough of course means the Ubuntu start button. Anyway, so then you can just start typing about what you want to bring up. So for instance, Banshee. And there you've got Banshee as presented as an option. You can also list applications, you can find media applications, find internet applications, find more applications, find files, listen to music, check email, view photos, browse the web. So these are just the shortcuts that are on your Unity dash as soon as you hit the Windows key, which is pretty helpful. And they've also added support for keyboard navigation, so when you do start typing stuff, you can just use the up and down arrow keys. For instance, if I go terminal, it'll present me with more than one option. I can just use my arrow keys here to navigate between the options. So now we can go to find media apps, and you can see that they've present all the media applications that are installed by default, but they also give recommendations for ones that are available for download, which of course ties into the Ubuntu Software Center, which I'm going to come to shortly. So you can see here the most frequently used are of course Banshee and the movie player, and of course Banshee is the default media player for Ubuntu 11.04. Then under Find Internet Applications, you can see basically we've got Firefox, and I've installed a download accelerator, and of course you've got Gwibber, Evolution, Empathy, and the Remote Desktop Viewer. And again, we've got recommendations for apps available for download. Now, if you asked me, the Unity Dash is actually very similar to what you'd find on something like a touchscreen phone, or the or OS 10 line, which is going to be coming out, which is going to have the in quotes launch pad, which actually looks extremely similar to what Ubuntu has already offered with their Ubuntu 10.10 release, but they've enhanced it for the 11.04. So, and then of course we've got Find Files, and you can see here that I've got my recently used files, and I've also got my favorite folders, which are the GTK bookmarks that I've pinned. And yeah, you can quickly access your files and folders through this through the Search Files and Folders dash. Now, of course, you can also search for different files that are inside these bookmarks, especially for those inside your home folder, etc. So that's a very useful tool. Again, it's much like GNOME Do or Synapse. It's an application launcher that is custom to Unity. So they've done a great job on this. Initially, when I first installed this beta, it came up with some very weird issues along the top here, just some little graphical glitches and things like that, but I updated the system and it seems to iron them out, and it just looks fine and dandy now. I have not had graphical glitches since. Alright, let's move on to the pre-installed applications, which I kind of already have touched on. So, of course, media applications, Banshee and Movie Player, and of course you've got Brasero, you've got Pitavi, and you've got Sound Recorder. That's nothing really out of the ordinary, except of course for Banshee. And of course Banshee has come a long way in the short 6 months that Ubuntu has named it as default. So it's lightened up a bit. It's also got the global menu support. It's also got the sound menu integration support that of course came shortly after 10.10. But also, interestingly enough, you can add playlists. So here you can go to your playlist for, say, you haven't heard certain songs. So you can click on that playlist from the sound menu, which is pretty handy. So let me demonstrate. So you can start playing a track like I'm doing now, and then while it's playing you can come up here to your choose playlists, and you can select a different playlist here, like recently added, unheard, unwatched, etc. And it'll start playing through those files. You can skip, of course, just like you could with the last one. So quite honestly, they've done some nice little enhancements there that make it that much easier to use. And of course, along the top panel here, they are all indicator applets now, so there are no notification menus from GNOME. They also have a custom time and date application, which is actually a vast improvement on the traditional GNOME time and date application. You can add events here, which ties straight into your Evolution calendar, and you've also got time and date settings, which I've heard a few people have had trouble with changing 12, 24 hour, etc. So it's good to see they've come up with their own solution here, and it's quite an elegant solution. It works well. Back under applications, of course, we've got Internet, we've got Empathy, Evolution Mail, Firefox 4, Gwibber Social Client, and Remote Desktop Viewer. Now, of course, Ubuntu 11.04 ships with a Firefox 4 naturally. So here we have Firefox 4. Now Firefox 4 only came stable release only last week, so it's come a long way in the year that it's been developed, and I'd have to say Firefox is finally up to par with what most modern browsers are offering now. So it's good to see that they finally jumped the ship from the stable 3.6 to 4.0. That's great to see. And of course the next major software upgrade is of course LibreOffice. Now LibreOffice is a vast improvement on OpenOffice. Great to see that more distributions are using this. Of course we've seen Pardus, we've seen OpenSUSE, we've seen now Ubuntu 11.04, and I think it'll only be a matter of time before more distributions hop on the boat of LibreOffice. Now, about the global menus. With most applications, including Firefox, you can use global menus. Up the top here you can see. Now unfortunately with LibreOffice at this point you cannot do that by default. However, there has been somebody that has worked on an extension for LibreOffice that enables the global menu support. So that is in testing, and I imagine if it comes clean within the next month, then they'll probably include it with the final release. But that's really my only comment there. LibreOffice is fantastic. It'd be of course great to see global menu support. So of course we've got Calc and we've got Impress, and next we'll talk about the Ubuntu Software Center. Now, a quick note on the Unity launcher here. When you hold down the Windows key, you see numbers that come up on the launchers. Basically, all you need to do is they are keyboard shortcuts. So, if you want to launch Firefox, you hold down the Windows Meta key and press 2, and it'll launch Firefox. And then, of course, so forth and so on with the rest of them. And you can see here that you can even do shortcuts for things like finding files and folders, or possibly maybe finding applications and so forth and so on. It's actually very handy. So here we are in the Ubuntu Software Center, and just to demonstrate another little feature that they have, which you can kind of say they stole from Windows or they stole from KDE or whoever they want, but this arrow snap type features where you drag it over one side, it highlights and expands to half the screen. Other side, same thing. Top, full screen. So let's have a look at full screen. You'll notice when applications go full screen, much like again OS 10 line is going to be boasting about. I've actually noticed that OS 10 line's copying a few features actually. You can see here that the global menus show up as hidden by the title of the window, and also the window controls are integrated into the bar, which is pretty cool, and this is what the netbook interface looks like by default. That's why now with Ubuntu there is only one CD for desktop and netbook. So really brilliant implementation there. They seem to have thought of every detail, and it really shows. They've done a lot of hard work here, and it's good to see. There are bugs, but I'm going to get to them in a second. So first of all, here we are back at the Software Center. Now of course this looks very, very similar, except we have some new terminology. We have departments, and you can click on any of the applications here. You've also got featured applications, and you've also got recommendations. Now this is new to Ubuntu 11.04. You can see there are 4 recommendations for me, and it figures out that I do a lot of media stuff, so it has suggested some media players, which is good pickup there. That was accurate. You can also see we've had some slight changes to the featured applications and to the what's new. It looks a little bit prettier, a little bit easier on the eyes. It's good to see. Of course, there is also support for featured and ratings now. So if you're logged in with your Ubuntu One account, you can rate the applications that you download. Of course, we've got our provided by Ubuntu, we've got canonical partners, and we've got for purchase. Now, at the moment, there isn't anything in there because the mirrors that I've told it to go to don't actually have anything in there. So I'm going to have to try and sort that out before this release goes final. But they are there if you use the default mirrors. I'm just using local mirrors, so that's why there's nothing in there. Of course, we have the Shotwell Photo Manager, and that's really all you get for graphics, but quite honestly, that's all you need. Shotwell has come a long way since Ubuntu 10.10. It now supports video, it supports mobile video, it lumps it all in the one library. You can tag video and photos are both treated as events. It's shaping up to be a beautiful application. It has a search bar as well, very, very handy. Big kudos to the Yorba team for constantly pushing out releases for Shotwell. They've come a long way in 6 months, that's all I can say. And of course, another significant rework is the Ubuntu 1 control panel. Now, unfortunately, I am behind a proxy, and one of the things that is still annoying me intensely is that Ubuntu 1 does not have any proxy support as of yet. So I am still waiting patiently for them to enable proxy support for Ubuntu 1. It is in the pipeline, but they just haven't done it yet. So I'm hoping that they can fix this before the final release, but if they don't, well, it's just a knock against them in my books. The control panel is quite a nice application. You can manage all your things, such as your note syncing, your files and folders, your music, all in one location. It's very centralized. It's fantastic. As far as hardware compatibility goes, no issues in that regard. I did try to install the proprietary drivers for my ATI or AMD graphics card. No love whatsoever. Unity would not launch. I only ended up with the Ubuntu Classic. I could not launch Unity at all, even manually. So yeah, the graphics drivers, the proprietary ones anyway, aren't quite there yet. But as I said before, the experience with just the pre-installed graphics drivers are just fine and dandy. System resources wise, I have noticed that Ubuntu 11.04 at this point seems slower to boot and to log in, but once the system has logged in, I've found it to be slightly more responsive than Ubuntu 10.10. So it does take a little bit longer to start up and get going, but once it is going, I definitely think that it does have performance gains, and I think that again we'll put that down to the Linux kernel 2.6.38 release 7, I think. Overall, this beta of Ubuntu 11.04 is shaping up to be quite the operating system. It's great to see that they're merging with netbook and desktop. It provides a lot less confusion when it comes to new users. They're not going to accidentally download the wrong one. Also makes it a lot easier for distribution as well. If you can have one single image to pass around to everyone, it makes it a lot easier than having to download separate images, etc, etc. Unity is shaping up very nicely. Again, there have been a few stability issues, and I'm hoping that they can get that together at the before the end of the month. But otherwise, it's shaping up to be a great user experience. Is it something I could get used to on an everyday basis? I think with a bit of practice I could. There are definite enhancements that have been made to Unity that make it a lot more streamlined, a lot less clunky than it was in Ubuntu 10.10 in the Netbook edition. Having said that, the user interface is a slight learning curve. Some of the keyboard shortcuts don't work the way they used to in Ubuntu Classic or in GNOME. There are some new keyboard shortcuts that I would probably want to learn if I wanted to get around the system quickly. But quite honestly, that's what you're going to have to do with any new system. And I think once I get over that initial speed bump of the new shortcuts and things of that nature, then I think it is going to be quite an elegant system. It logs all of your recent files through Zeitgeist. It has linking into the Software Center, software recommendations. It's turning out to be a really clever operating system that, yeah, it's delightful to use. It's really getting to the point now where it's become stable. I would use it on an everyday basis. I am going to stick with 10.10 for a little bit longer by default, but quite honestly, I'm very impressed with the way Unity has shaped up. They have the 2D version for those that don't have the 3D graphical interface, that don't have the capability to run that. Yeah, quite honestly, they've got the Ubuntu Classic, they've got the Ubuntu Netbook Edition, they've got the Unity by default. It's a very consolidated release. They've really toned it down and made Ubuntu into something that's specific. It's not something that is trying to copy anyone else. They are making their own plans here. They're charting their own course. It's exciting stuff. Unity is a great interface once you get used to it. And despite the doubt that they received when they told the world they were going to be shifting to Unity by default, they've done a great job. Their implementation is almost perfect, but again, there are those glitches there that I know they are working on those bugs. So when the final version comes out, I will see if I need to do another video based just to see if there's anything that has changed. But I am very impressed with 11.04, and this will definitely be staying on my system until it goes final, and then I will make my final verdict whether I keep Ubuntu 11.04 or whether I just go back to the classic Ubuntu.